Hello, thank you for joining us. My name is Erica Ginnivan. I am a junior pro sales major, and today I have the honor of welcoming Jessica Rush with us. Jessica Rush serves as the Chief Talent Officer for Paradox, the AI company that helps organizations and recruiters provide a better experience for their candidates. Prior to Paradox, Jessica spent most of her career leading sales and marketing teams for HR technology and recruitment media platforms. She joined Paradox 2 years ago, and in her current role, Jessica is responsible for culture, talent acquisition, and development efforts as the company continues to grow and scale the organization. Today, Jessica will share about her career journey and her best advice in finding the right jobs for you. Without further ado, Jessica, I'll hand it over to you.
Thanks so much, Erica. I'm thrilled to be here. As Erica mentioned, I serve as the Chief Talent Officer at Paradox, and we are a software as a service technology company based out of Scottsdale, Arizona. So as you can imagine, in my role, I spend a lot of time with candidates, and a huge part of my job responsibilities are hiring talent for our organization. But I've also spent most of my career working directly with HR professionals from companies across nearly every industry. And it doesn't feel like that long ago that I was looking for my first job out of college. So I'm happy to be here to share some tips for how to get hired. But I believe that you can look for a job, or you can take an entirely different approach, one that I believe ultimately will lead to a better outcome. And that's that you can look for a career. And you might be thinking, what's the difference? Or, well, that sounds great, but I've got to get that first job offer in order to start a career. Well, I think the difference is that you can either think about and focus on getting a job offer, or you can really focus on finding a place where you can launch a successful career. And so all of the advice that I'm going to share today is from my personal experience, given the background that I shared with you. And I'm going to ask you to take a bit of a journey with me. But first, I want to start with this question. Okay, who has a post-graduation job? Or who has an internship secured for this coming summer? Now, if I could see you, I would ask you to raise your hands, but I'm going to go ahead and take an educated guess that at this point, most of you don't have a job secured at this point. And that's okay, because that's why we're here, and that's why I'm here to share advice on how to get hired. But the next question is, who feels ready for the job search? Like really deeply ready. I'm talking you feel completely qualified, your resume is perfected, bring on the interviews, you're totally ready. Or what if I take a step back and ask, who has a plan? Do you have a plan for how you're going to find that next job or that internship, or how you're gonna launch your career? So one of my favorite books, written by Stephen Covey, a pretty timeless one, called 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. He shares some of the best career and perhaps life advice that I can share with you. And that's to start with the end in mind. Now, I'm not just talking about the sort of the typical question, where do you want to be in 5 years? What do you want your future job title to be? I'm asking, what do you want your career to really look like? What's important to you? And here's why I think this is so important. If you don't know, it's really hard to find. And if you do find it, it's probably because of a lot of luck. But have a plan and really think about, how do you get there? So you may be wondering, what is this? Well, I told you I'd take you on a bit of a personal journey. This is actually my binder, if you can believe it, from my senior year of college. I tracked every job I applied to, every company I communicated with, and the cover is filled with inspirational quotes for motivation. But I'll just share one of those quotes with you. It's from Thomas Jefferson, and he said, "I'm a great believer in luck, and the harder I work, the more of it I find." And frankly, that quote rings truer today for me now than it probably did back then. And the message here is pretty simple, I think. You got to work hard, and you create your own luck. So treat finding a job like a job. It is hard work. So you've got to get serious, get focused, get organized, and get to work. So make sure you know where you've applied. Make sure you know why you applied. I can't tell you how often I hear from recruiters that I know at various companies that Often when they reach out to a candidate that they're excited about, they sometimes hear people say, can you just remind me what that job was for again? Or, I've applied to a lot of jobs. Can you tell me what your company does? Make sure you know you're prepared and that you have a reason why you've applied for that job and with that company. But here's also the reality, and some of you probably know this already. It won't be easy. So be prepared for some rejection and also some disappointment. Now, you're looking at a picture of return to sender notifications and rejection notices from my job search 16 years ago. I sent out probably 100 resumes asking for an opportunity. Now, you might be thinking, why didn't I apply online? And I want to be clear that the internet did exist. I'm not that old, but I was really hustling. I was working connections through career services at my university. I was applying on job boards. I was applying on career sites, and I was asking people directly to take a chance on me. And so I sent out letters to heads of HR at various companies that I'd researched. Now, fast forward to today, it's a whole lot easier on LinkedIn. So if you're not taking advantage of the largest networking opportunity that exists, make sure that you get on LinkedIn, you create a profile, you put in your experience, your skills, and you start building that network. Because here's how I found my first job out of college. I was connected to someone that my dad knew. He connected me to somebody else, and then she connected me to somebody else that she knew. I went and met for an informational interview, so not even a job interview. And on the day I was scheduled to meet with that person, she was out sick. And so someone else kindly agreed to meet with me. And after looking at my resume, she told me about a job that she had just heard about. And I went back from that meeting, I went online, I found that job, and I applied. So it was that network of connections. So it sounds like a little bit of luck, but if you think about it, I had 3 meetings before I ever got to that conversation where I learned about that job. So again, we create our own luck. So use every resource at your disposal, including your network. Now you may be thinking, I don't have a network. I have good news. You do. Everybody has a network. So think about your family, think about your friends, your family friends, old bosses from part-time jobs, customers from those same part-time jobs, coaches, neighbors, and your professors. Ask who they know in an industry or a specific type of job, or who they know who's well connected. Or again, log into LinkedIn, be brave, and send out some thoughtful, personalized, and targeted messages with connection requests to build your network. And I'll tell you one other idea. Reach out to somebody in the job or at the company you're applying to. We have candidates who connect with people at our company on LinkedIn, and they ask them for career advice, they ask them about what it's like working at our organization, and sometimes they ask who they should reach out to. And I think this happens at a lot of companies. And most of the time, the people you reach out to, if they think you're a potential fit, will tell you who to reach out to, how to apply, or they might even pass along your resume, because many companies have referral programs. And that means they actually get a monetary bonus if they refer a candidate who ultimately gets hired. So it's in their best interest, if they find a great candidate, to actually pass them along to the organization. But more simply, people remember what it was like to look for work, for a new job, and I truly believe that most people really do want to help. So, people are busy, not everyone will respond, but there's that opportunity. So ask for help, ask for advice, and ask for insight. Now, I gave the advice that you should start with the end in mind, but also be open-minded. Find a job that speaks to you. Be open to what you don't know is out there. So I shared that I spent my career in HR tech, and I worked with hundreds of companies in basically every industry, and there are a crazy number of jobs that I had no idea even existed out there. When I was looking for my first job, I was looking for an HR or a recruiting job. That was pretty much every job I applied to at the time, except for this one. This was the job that a connection of a connection of a connection told me about. But a job that I didn't even know was a job that existed, it spoke to me. And so you got to take some chances and go for it and kind of widen your view and consider opportunities that are maybe off the selected path that you think you're on. And you may find, as I did, that you're pleasantly surprised. So the reality is that I wasn't quite qualified for the job. I was mostly qualified for the job, but one of the job details was that you were supposed to be well networked in the community. And unless you count the 3 people that I networked with to find that job, I wouldn't call myself well networked at the time. But I believed that I could do it. I believed it was the right opportunity for me. And so I prepared for that interview like I was preparing for my final exams. And especially in today's market, you are likely going to be interviewing and competing for jobs with other students, other professionals, some of them more experienced than you, who have more work history and maybe more interviewing experience. So you have to bring your A game. And so it's time to really think about everything that you bring to the table, to that job and to that company. So if you've ever taken on a leadership position in your fraternity or sorority or student government or a student organization, on a sports team, or you've been the leader in a group project for a class, those experiences matter. So don't underestimate them. Leadership skills are built across all of these types of experiences. And when I think back to some of the leadership roles that I held in college or in high school, they taught me skills that prepared me for that first job, for that interview, and that I still use I've used in every job since and in my job today. Things like how to communicate in big and small groups, how to leverage resources and my network to get work done, how to build excitement and buy-in for an idea, how to plan large-scale events and lead groups, how to create agendas and run productive meetings, and how to recruit and retain people. So whatever work experience you have, relevant internships, part-time jobs, volunteering, you've learned valuable skills that will benefit you in your career and that you'll bring to your employer. So if you've served tables at a restaurant for 3 summers, what did that teach you? My guess is you learned upselling, multitasking, building relationships with customers. If you've worked in a retail store part-time, did you have revenue goals that were associated with you personally or with the store? Did you train new employees? If you volunteered, how did you take actions to improve the outcomes for your organization? These are the types of stories that you need to share in your resume and during your interview. So practice and be ready to talk about each of those experiences and be ready to walk somebody through what you've learned and what you accomplished. So do the work and be ready. And here is, I think, the beautiful reality. It's not too late. It's September. So even if you're a senior and you realize your resume is looking a little blank, you have the opportunity. You have nearly a year to find opportunities to learn, to contribute in a meaningful way, and to gain that experience. So you're hustling, you're working your network, you're searching for jobs, you're applying, you're staying organized, you're keeping motivated, and you've worked hard to build your experience and you're ready to talk about those transferable skills. So be prepared, do your research, know why you're interested in the job, know why you're applying to the company. This is my printout from the careers page of the company from my first job, and I printed it out and studied it. I brought it with me in a padfolio to the actual interview. And I did that because it was important to me what the company stood for. So be thoughtful about the company you choose. Do you believe in their values? Do you believe in their mission? If you're in sales, marketing, customer service, is the product something that you're going to be excited about every day? Are the customers and their businesses interesting to you? And will you be interested in a year? If you don't believe in the mission, if you don't believe in the values, if you don't believe in the product, it's going to be very hard to be successful, certainly over the long term. Now, this was the first office of that first job where I interviewed. As you can see, it wasn't very big. It definitely wasn't fancy, but somehow I saw past that. I felt the enthusiasm, the passion, the excitement for the team and what they were doing. I'm not telling you to choose your job based on an office. I'm asking you not to. And I say that as somebody who now recruits and works in a pretty cool looking office. And I know that sometimes is a factor for candidates that interview with us. But don't get distracted. Focus on what really matters. Luckily, a very small company in a very small office took a chance on me, and I took a chance on them. So remember to buy in for the mission and make sure that you believe. Now, there's an adage that you're the average of the 5 people that you spend the most time with. And I don't know if that's the right number, but I do believe, and I found that it's very true. At work and in life, if you want to grow and be the best, then surround yourself with other people who do too. If you have strong values and character, then make sure you're surrounded by people who also have strong character and values. And if you care deeply about your work, make sure your coworkers do too. And when you're in an interview, you should be interviewing that person and that company. So the reality is you won't get as much time to ask questions as the interviewer, but you can learn a lot by reading, by listening, and yes, by asking really good, thoughtful questions about the things you care about. So how do you know what to ask in an interview? Well, it depends on what you care about. You're probably going to have the chance to ask maybe 3 or 4 questions in each interview. So make them count. Learn something that really matters to you. I'm always amazed when people get to maybe the second or third interview and they say they have all their questions answered. This is your chance to decide whether this is the right company, the right job, the right person to work with. So make sure you ask those questions and you really consider the perspective of the person that you're interviewing with. And again, this is your opportunity to learn about the hiring manager, your future manager. So think about finding a great manager, not just a great job. Look out for great managers in your job search and try and seek them out throughout your career. I've been really fortunate to work with our CEO for nearly 13 years, and I'm still learning from him. He's been a huge champion in my career, so find somebody who will be a champion in yours. And say yes. Sometimes in your job search, in your career, you'll hit an obstacle or you'll find yourself presented with a choice that you didn't anticipate. In fact, I'm sure many of you experienced that this summer with perhaps canceled internships or jobs. And so your path that you were on was blocked. There are other paths, and you may find there are even better paths. So I'll paraphrase some advice from the executive chairman of Google, Eric Schmidt. He said, say yes to things. Find a way to say yes to things, to learn something new. It's how you get your first job, your next job. It lets you stand out in a crowd, be the optimist, see the glass half full, and be the one everyone comes to. It's a tiny word that can do big things, so say it often. I believe that careers are based on building a record of success over time. And so I'll share just one more piece of advice for not just your job search, but for you as you launch your career. No matter what job you land, give it your all. Remember that no one becomes an expert in a year. I'll say in every job I've ever had, I find that a year in, I'm really just figuring out how to do the job really well and what really moves the dial. So make that investment of time and get really great at your job, whatever your job, your first job winds up being. And I don't know anyone who has built a successful career by planning to stay in a job at a company for just 1 or 2 years. So my advice is to build a career and work hard to grow it. Invest deeply in the job that you're in. Do the best you can to find a great job you're going to be excited about doing. Find a company that you're going to be excited about working for, and find clients that you're excited to serve. And think about every job you apply to and every company that you interview with as whether it's a place where you can see yourself building a career or a place that will be great for starting your career. Now, candidates always ask me, what do you love most about working for Paradox? And frankly, it's the exact same things that were important to me when I was first looking for a job out of college. I wanted to see first the impact of my efforts. I always wanted to make a wave, not a ripple. 2, I want to be challenged. I want to grow. I want to be constantly learning. And 3, I want to work with really smart, driven, good people who care tremendously about accomplishing something awesome together. And so go back to that first point of starting with the end in mind and be clear on what matters to you. And remember, I didn't say that I want to work at a specific type of company or in a specific type of industry or even a specific type of job. I said the 3 things that really mattered to me in building my career and how I felt would define a successful career. And 16 years later, for me, they still do. So start with defining yours.
Thank you, Jessica. And I appreciate you sharing with us a little bit about how to work hard at your job search, lean on your resources, and build your network in order to find the best career for all of us students, all while starting with the end goal in mind. So we have some questions that students have submitted for your presentation. First being, what is your advice for switching career paths if you believe that you've chosen the wrong one?
Well, I think the first piece of advice I would give is it's never too late. And I don't know that it's ever the wrong one, right? So I would say, don't worry, let yourself off the hook a little bit. I think there's so much you can learn from every job. And there's something that you can take from each of those that will be helpful in a future career. So I also believe that having broad experience can be really beneficial, especially as you continue on in your career. So, think of it as an opportunity to kind of expand your skill set as opposed to you've made a wrong choice. It would be my first piece of advice. The second thing I would say is today there's so many resources out there to grow your skill set. And so if you are looking at maybe making a career pivot, look at online tools, classes where you can gain additional skills. Some of them you might need to pay for, but so many of them are free. I mean, there's so many great tools out there. Different technology providers or professional associations offer a lot of online learning opportunities. You can even get certifications without necessarily having experience in a particular skill or type of role, but it will help you build out your skill set for the future. And then even within your company, you can apply for jobs internally, but also offer to take on projects, right? So you've got to do your job really well, but a lot of times there's opportunities to maybe work cross-functionally or help with some different things outside of your normal job duties. And that's a really great way to gain additional experience if you want to make a career pivot.
Yeah, I agree. I think that every experience is one to learn from and one to push forward your career. So thank you for that. Our next question is, what is the most important lesson that you have learned while climbing the ranks of your career?
There have been a lot of lessons learned, for sure. I think the most important one is to just always be learning and listening. I think that's something that I tried to do early, is learn and really absorb from people who were in leadership roles and who I saw who were successful in their roles and in the company. And so I wanted to understand what made them be successful. And so many people are willing to share advice or to let you watch them work. And it's such a great opportunity. And I think, that's true throughout your career. And I think the further along in my career I get, the more I realize there are lots of things I don't know. And so I still try and do a lot of listening, a lot of learning. I read a lot of books. I talk to as many people in our organization as possible to learn their perspective, to learn what they see as the opportunities, the challenges, and to really just understand. So listening and learning is first and foremost, I think, my greatest lesson learned.
I know that it's really important, even for us as students, we can be learning from each other today. And I think that one way we can start that learning process is by learning what works for other students who are looking for jobs in their job search. So our next question is, what is something that really separates candidates from each other during the hiring process?
Yeah, I think it really comes down to candidates knowing their story, knowing who they are, and knowing what they've accomplished. And the ability to communicate that really clearly is helpful for us to figure out whether there's a good fit and what that right fit might look like within our organization. So, some of that comes with preparation, like I shared before, and practicing and really thinking through the different experiences you have and skills that you bring to the table, and where you've had success and where you've had lessons learned and what you've accomplished and how that's helped guide you kind of moving forward.
Thank you. And then the last question I would like to have you leave us with is, with the knowledge you have now, what is one piece of advice that you would have given yourself as a college student who's interviewing?
If I think back on kind of my early interviews, I would definitely tell myself to probably slow down a little bit. I still have to give myself that advice a lot of times, and really make sure you sort of read the room. So what I mean by that is pay attention to the person you're talking to, pay attention to the audience, make sure that you're sort of on pace, that they're engaged, kind of make sure that they're along with you for the ride. And a great way to do that is sort of check in. So, if you're concerned, maybe you're going a little deep into a story, maybe stop and say, I'm happy to share more details, or if you feel like you've got a pretty good sense of that, I'm happy to move on. The other thing to keep in mind along with that is remember that, during the interview, people are also assessing not just your experience, but how you communicate, the way that you deliver information. And so I think it's really important that, you again practice and you're able to clearly communicate your story and you're able to prioritize. And so those are some of the things that certainly I would give the advice I would give myself, looking back, is to just keep all of those things in mind. I mean, even being extra thoughtful about the questions and that you ask, or that I would ask in the end of the interview, and how that provides insight into the things that I truly care about.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much, Jessica. I really appreciate your time and the advice that you've had to share with all of us. I know you've already influenced my career and my future career search, and I look forward to seeing how you have impacted all of the other hundreds of students participating with us today.
Thanks very much.